Hey, Wes here, Airstream Wanderings. Today is step 2 in the experimental firing of Mimbres style pottery. If you watch my last video, and I'll put a link up there, I attempted to fire this pot and turn the red paint black because that's how Mimbres paint worked. They used hematite or iron oxide based paint and it turned black, and there's kind of a special process that you need to do with that. Obviously, it did not work because all of these colors are still red. But many of you gave me good suggestions about how to do it differently. That is the goal today. Take this back outside and refire it. See if I can get these things to turn black and stay black. If that interests you, please come along. I am probably not the best person to talk about this, and if any of you have suggestions, see errors in my ways, I would be happy to hear from you. Let's talk briefly about what happens and how, or at least what is my approach to getting this red paint to turn black. What is going on, as I understand it, is that red paint is iron oxide. You can call it hematite, you can call it rust, but it's iron and oxygen that is mixed together. We need to separate that oxygen, pull it out away from the iron. And the way you do that is to have it in a fire, because the wood, the carbon needs oxygen to burn. So that's a reduction fire. It is sucking the oxygen basically out of the iron oxide, leaving you with just plain iron, and that should be black. The problem is that once it starts to cool and you have plenty of oxygen around, the oxygen will go back into the iron, turn it back into iron oxide, and turn it red. So the goal here is to have a reduced atmosphere where this is covered up. Last time I covered it with some sand. Sand is probably too porous. I need to have a good seal on it. I'm also going to use a large pan to do that. The other thing that has been suggested is make sure you still have some carbon in with the pot, so that if oxygen gets into that atmosphere, that the carbon will use that oxygen up and it won't go back into the iron oxide. So that's the goal today, is to get a very hot fire and make sure that I have as reduced an atmosphere as I possibly can. I have one other thing I'm going to fire today, a little ram, a bighorn sheep, and I painted it with an iron oxide clay blend. So in an ideal world, this will turn black. So we'll see what happens with that as well. Here's how this works. I've got my outdoor fire pit. I lined the inside with bricks to raise the fire up, get a little bit better air circulation. But the bricks have gaps between them, so I filled in the top of that with some dirt. Actually, it's clay. And then here is the pottery that I'm going to fire. I've got it sitting on a sherd. I will put charcoal all around that. You'll see how that works. And then I have a stew pot here that I will flip over the top of it at the appropriate time. Here's the charcoal burning. It's just going to take its time, and I'm in no big hurry. Let the pots heat up slowly, and then we'll just see what kind of temperature we get. The charcoal has been going for a while now, and it's met its maximum temperature. The highest I saw was 1400 degrees. It's going down a little bit. That's not as much as I'm hoping for. So what I think I'm going to do is kind of clear it out a bit and then build a wood fire over the top. Everything should be preheated. I should be able to get a little bit more heat out of it. And then it also will create a more reduced atmosphere, which hopefully is good for reducing the paint. And then I'll get it covered up. Well, it will be interesting just to see how hot we get this now. And shortly thereafter, we'll go ahead and cover it. The extra wood did bump up the temperature maybe 100 degrees. I saw one temperature of 1600, but now the fire is definitely on the downside. So it's time to get this thing covered up. I want to leave some charcoal inside. I think that looks pretty good. Get it down as tight as I can. Okay, I think it's sealed up pretty good, and so I just let it burn down, and I'm not going to pull it out of there until it's really pretty cool. All right, here is the reveal. I'm not sure if it's a big reveal or not. This is still, I like 130, 40 degrees. So it's a little on the hot side, but I'm not sure. I'm not too concerned about it oxidizing anymore. I think I got a pretty good seal around it, but I'm not convinced that the pot got as hot as I wanted it to. But let's see what happens. It's always kind of fun, kind of exciting. All right. You get to see it before me. Well, interesting. Some of these are a lot blacker than they were before. I will show you a comparison side by side. And I was expecting that some would stay kind of red and some would be black because just the nature of the iron oxide in these. But some of them are really quite black. Not too bad. So progress was made here, I think. I'm not sure it's perfect, but it's progress. So let's take a look at our little sheep here. It didn't turn red, but it's kind of a brownish color. I was kind of hoping for black, but that's okay. And I see some little cracks in his rear end. So I'll take this in and maybe we can talk about it a little bit. But overall, I think making progress in the right direction. Experiments have a way of answering some questions, but it seems that they always end up raising even more questions. And that's kind of where I'm at. I think I've moved a little bit closer to the goal, but quite frankly, I don't know. Here is the pot that I just fired, and then I'll show you a side-by-side picture of the way it looked before, after the first firing. So definitely darker colors, definitely more of a reduced atmosphere. Very dark browns, but are they black? No, none of them are as black as I'd want them to be. What went well, what didn't? I think what went well was the smothering of it. I smothered it pretty much at the top of the temperature. Using the pot in the fire made sense. Having some coals underneath the pot to absorb oxygen, I think that helped. Using dirt below and above to get a good seal. Dirt's better than sand. Those are all things that went pretty well. Letting it cool down, that helped as well. What didn't help, I think, a big question for me is, would more temperature make a difference? I got up to 1600 degrees Fahrenheit. I would have liked to have seen 18 or even 1900 degrees. I think that would create a more reduced atmosphere and shift these colors more towards black. That is the big question that I have right now. Now, I did expect that these colors would be different. That was part of the goal, is to find out which ones worked the best. And the one I actually like the best is this red. That's an iron oxide of some sort, and mixed with a little bit of clay. That worked out pretty good. I understand that some other iron oxides, limonite and magnetite, might be the answer. I don't have any of that. I'd like to get my hands on some. So I'll have to try that as well and build a hotter fire and go on to the next step. That's kind of the nature of these things. With ancient pottery, you just have to be willing to try out different ideas until you find out something that works. So it's been a fun investigation, and I hope you've had a little bit of fun too. Feel free to give it a like. Feel free to subscribe. Appreciate those things. And I love the comments. If you have any suggestions to take me even further down the path, I would love to hear that. Please don't hold back. Till next time, this is Wes with Airstream Wanderings, wishing you health, happiness, peace, and love. Take care. Bye-bye.